The red carpet is unrolling.
Our
It's a
listeners,
Yeah, Kylie and I love this countdown. We
the
usually
one listener that we have, which is you today.
we usually have an anthem for the countdown.
Dun, dun.
Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da.
We just started rewatching the Arrested Development series last night. Me, while my sister is here, we were going through it. It was a great time.
Yeah,
Have you ever
I
listened? Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say I love Arrested Development, but I try. No, I think it's just things that are from the past sometimes hit different in 2022, and I was like, ooh, a little of this is like a racist, and I'm like, oh, I
Yeah,
wish it wasn't.
Yeah,
I'm like, damn, I
yeah.
really liked this when I watched it the first time, but I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. But that's okay. It's just frozen joy.
Yeah.
everything
No.
is like that. Friends,
Yeah.
Seinfeld, all of it. Like the things that they say, I find it refreshing because I know that it was done innocently, and it's not like you will never hear that stuff again. You won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
I
another time.
I definitely had a few of those moments too where I was like, "Ooh, that doesn't age well."
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
That would not fly today. Um, so, Rose, before we get started, it looks like they disabled the program disabled your camera because of it looks like. Do you have any other browsers open by any chance?
Um, Let me like, does it tend to work better on a different browser? Like, do you want me to open it on Safari or something?
Are you on Chrome?
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's supposed to work best on Chrome. Um, some things that we recently learned are works best on Chrome, works best when you don't have any other browsers or any other programs going in the background. And
Okay.
then if you are using Wi-Fi, it says that it's slow internet connection for you. So I wonder if
Yeah, want me to join with my phone?
maybe if you have maybe the hotspot would be better. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Let me
Okay.
I'll just dial in with my phone. I think that'll be fine, but I got to go
Oh, you're
grab
back
other
now.
headphones.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
I think with my Wi-Fi it's a little sometimes it's a little sketch. So I'd rather just call using the data and then we know that it's going to work. So
Okay. Yeah, that would be great because
okay.
we did have an episode recently. We have to re-record like the whole first half of her interview because the internet wasn't working. So now we know to check before we start.
Brutal.
Yes.
It's just
Oh,
brutal.
that is.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me give me 1 sec and I'll come back,
Yeah.
okay?
Yep.
I'm just going to
Sure.
leave the studio. Yeah?
Yeah. Yep. And then you
Perfect.
can come back. Yep.
Okay, bye.
Yep. So that's good. I'm glad we checked that. Um,
I
I am
love
on
her
a.
already.
Me too. I'm in love. I cannot wait. I am on a little bit of a it's not a time crunch, but I do want to be finished recording by 10:30. I'm sorry, by what time is it for you? 3
3:30.
3:30 for you. If we can, because my sister, we want to do something before I put my sister on a plane today, and I'm so sad. But there's something she
Nice.
really, yeah, there's something she really wants to see before we go. So we just timed it to where 10:30 would be our leave time. So
Let's just try to let's absolutely. Let's just get in, do it, make it good, and go. We don't have to do this like 2 hour long event every time. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I agree. Although
I'm with you.
I love a good 2 hour long event, and I feel like if there was going to be a 2 hour long event, I would love it to be with Rose.
We might just have to decide we need to do it again.
Yeah. No, I mean, I already feeling a part two.
So 100%. Is it
There's
weird
so
for us
much
to
to
say
talk
that to
about.
her? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. We can be forward. It's fine.
Thank you. Yes.
Permission to be forward.
I love it. Yeah, she's terrific.
Hmm.
I have her bio. Do do
Okay.
you, do you want to read it, or would you like me to? I don't care at all.
I'll read it this time because I feel like
Mhm.
you've been reading a lot of them. So I
And this
will.
sounds really good.
I can read this one. I just have to remember how to pronounce her. I think it's Schlaff, but we'll check.
And I'm gonna ask her too. Does she want us to refer to her as Rose or Dr. Rose?
Right. That's a good question too. Good call.
I never know with people.
Mm-hmm. Because if I was a doctor, I would make my husband call me doctor. Dr. Wife. Dr. Wife?
Dr. Wife, may I please? ...
What are we having for dinner tonight, Dr. Wife?
No, sir, you may not. That's the answer.
Yeah, that's so funny. Oh
Oh
man.
my God. Okay,
Uh,
it'll be good.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna have to have a part two because there's a lot of good stuff that she wants to talk about, and
Yeah, and there's so many. I mean, such a wide variety of potential.
mhm.
I really want her to be able to talk about her regain your flame thing.
yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. I mean, listen, it isn't like there's going to be some in like 500 people that are listening to this when we launch it, but if there's some shelf life to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thank you. You're right. Maybe there will.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel it. I can't wait to hear about how to get out of your head during sex. That is no a lot. No, a lot of people where that's my friend and I were just having this conversation. So I'm gonna tell her she's gonna be one of these listeners that's gonna listen to this one.
I am curious to know what she'll say about like men, the difference in how men and women think about sex. Like men can just do it whenever, all the time.
All the time.
Women not the same.
Hi, is it looking better?
Looks
really
much
good.
better. Actually, also sounds better too.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, this sounds a lot better. Okay, cool. Good. So do you feel comfortable with like your setup?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Good. Before we get into it, do you prefer to be addressed as Dr. Rose or Rose? How do you prefer for us to address you?
Rose or Dr. Rose, it doesn't really matter. Like, I feel like once we're in the flow of it, Rose tends to be a little bit more like comfy. So that's totally fine for me.
Okay. And then how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Schlaff?
Schlaff. Schlaff. You got it right.
Okay.
People usually don't, so good work, Meg.
Thank you very much. It's a little bit of a talent that I have. No, I'm kidding.
For a second I was like, it is. You got my name right too.
I got your name right in my head, and then when I tried to say it out loud, I messed it all up. But
yeah, no, I did the same to yours, and yours is pretty straightforward. So
it's one of those that like people try to make it too fancy, and it's like it's not that fancy. You know, that's what it is.
Hagar.
Hagar, like a fancy like caviar cigar situation. You know. Okay, so I feel good about just jumping right in. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I feel good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. We are so excited. Like, I cannot contain my excitement. We have Dr. Rose Schlaff here I'm going to say that again. Dr. Rose Schlaff. Nope, I'm going to say it again. Dr. Rose Schlaff, who is a sex and intimacy coach and pelvic floor physical therapist. She spent the last 5 years helping women and queer folks break down barriers to intimacy so they can feel confident, connected, and carefree in their relationships in and out of the bedroom. In addition to her virtual sex and intimacy coaching practice, she is a guest lecturer for the University of Michigan's Human Sexuality Certificate Program, which I think is so freaking cool, San Diego State University's Marriage and Family Therapy Program, and has had the opportunity to lecture internationally on the topic of sexual and pelvic health in Beijing, China. Also, everything you do is just so cool. I'm thrilled. I cannot wait. So, thank you so much for being here. We are, again, so excited.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
We were talking when you were getting your camera sorted out, and we were like, is it weird to say that we are already going to request a part 2? There's way too much information. We have too many questions.
That's super common. That happens all the time, so don't worry about it.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. We decided that it's okay that we're just going to be forward about it. Just be like, nope, we want you to come back for part 2 already.
What if you got into this interview though and you were like, ooh, we just don't vibe, and then you had already committed? Like,
see, no. My comment about a part 2 was followed by, I love her already. We have to do a part 2. So
Yes. Yeah.
we thought about that.
Yeah. No. I feel like Kylie and I have a pretty good like barometer for vibes. I
Yeah.
feel.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I think
Yep.
so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So let's just, okay, so I am dying to talk. I don't even know if like, I mean, I think we have like an order of things here. But I have to slow my roll a little bit. Okay. So Kylie, what are we drinking today? What's going on over there?
Today, it's very simple. I know, isn't that so cute?
It's so cute. For those of you who
Let me
can't
tell
see,
you.
oh, tell people who can't see what you've got going on over there in
It's
that
just a
little mug.
it's like a little, they're like, can you hear that? It's like
I
camping
can.
mugs, you know what I mean?
Ugh.
The kind that, I don't, are they tin? I think
Yeah.
maybe tin. I know
Yeah.
that you cannot microwave this, but it's got my little logo on it. I have one that's in color too. It's so cute. Here's the thing. I have to reheat my tea and my coffee like 17 times because I just don't drink it quite fast enough. You can't put this baby in the microwave.
Mm-mm.
So it's
You're gonna
not,
blow up your
so I'm
house.
using it now because I know that I'm going to be drinking while we talk and I will actually finish it. It's just green tea with pomegranate in it.
Is that the
I
same
know.
with the
Yum.
aloe? I'm sorry, the aloe pomegranate that you mentioned before?
No,
Different one?
it's just got it in the tea mix. Yeah,
Oh,
it's just like it's part of the tea. I know. Yeah, it
yes.
tempers the green tea a little bit. I know. I'm here for it. It's good. I know. What do you got over there?
You are all the way into the antioxidants today, and I'm loving it. That's amazing. Good for you.
Meg, I feel seen by you. Thank you.
I have my little morning do ditty over here. We're doing again with the ginseng tea. It's a popular favorite in my home. But I also, Dr. Rose, you don't know about these straws, but I'm obsessed with them. I love the clink. I talk about it all the time on the show here, and it's just makes me so happy. But anyway,
I like the clink too. I like the clink.
it's great. It's like some great ASMR. It's just it's a little got a little clink. It's just great. Anyway, so got some ginseng tea happening in here. But because I also like to do a little collagen in my water in the morning or in my oatmeal, but I saved it for the ginseng tea for the podcast today. So we're doing some little scoop of collagen, also some Ovacetol because I am somebody who needs a little bit of help to keep my cycle regular. So the Ovacetol helping me out with that, do that every day. So yeah, I got like a little bit of a loaded ginseng. It's also green tea. It's a ginseng green tea, and then we got the little toppings of the collagen and the Ovacetol.
That sounds delicious.
Like an all-in-one. So, Dr. Rose, what do you have going on over there? Are you drinking anything fun?
I'm drinking pure water out of a
Nice.
Topanga Canyon mug.
Yes. Lovely.
If I were drinking tea, my favorite is the ginger turmeric tea from, I either get it from Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, but that's kind of my go-to. If it wasn't water, it would probably be that tea, warm. But today it is water. And yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, and Topanga Canyon is kind of like a it's like a cool little like woodsy hippy dippy place. And my lovely friend Erin Hansen bought me this mug, so shout out to her.
Yes.
Can
I tell you, that's like my favorite mug shape. I know it's like, don't judge me. I have favorite mug shapes. Okay, I'm a bit of a mug snob, right? And that is like my favorite. It's like got the right amount of slope. It's just like perfect. I love that.
No, I disagree on all fronts. It's my least favorite shape. It is. I like thin. Even the lip of this, a little too thick. But this, it's small. I like to hold it in my hand like this and essentially hover every. Yeah, no, that one doesn't work for me.
So we found something we disagree on, but it's mugs, so it's okay.
Yeah, I feel like I drink like I walk, like I drink hard, so I like need a big mug, you know.
I walk.
I love that.
Cheers,
That's hilarious.
my friend.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Clinkety clink.
Here we go. I'll give you clink. There you go.
Oh, that's great. Oh
Pudding
my
happening.
god. Oh
So
my god.
so who wants to start? Does anyone have, actually, let's start. Dr. Rose, since you're our guest, why don't we do a little segment on the show as well, following after we go through how we're hydrating ourselves for the episode. We go through what we call our health what the fuck moment. And essentially this is a moment where we talk about a health related thing that just kind of makes you think, what the fuck? And it could be a patient related one, something personal, a friend, anything. But does anything come to mind for you recently that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that recent, but I do think it's a big what the fuck moment. And I think that you probably talk about birth control pills a lot, but that's a lot of my kind of origin story of like, how the heck did you even get here? And I think it ties in really closely to sex and sexual health too. So I can talk about that if you want.
Please. Yes, I'm dying.
Please. Because I want to know how you got to what you're doing, actually. So this is going to be perfect.
Yeah, we're gonna, it'll do it all, right? So I have always kind of been that friend who is the go-to for like, like, oh, I've never told anyone this, or what do you think about this embarrassing thing? I've always been that person. And I think it was always a superpower of mine to feel really safe and comfortable talking about the uncomfortable stuff that we all navigate and don't really talk about openly in our society. So I followed that and I became a pelvic floor physical therapist. So I was basically working on the muscles of the pelvis. I was talking about pee, poop, and sex all day long.
Great.
Yeah. And
also fun.
It was amazing. I loved it. And I was in this incredible facility here in San Diego with this world-renowned sexual medicine physician and sex therapist. And we would all, treat the same person and talk about it and collaborate. And so I thought, I was like, gosh, I have such a great understanding of the human body. And as I was working in this facility, what came to light pretty quickly is how deeply our bodies, our brains, our libido is impacted by birth control pills. And this is something that is honestly treated like a multivitamin at times, I feel like, in our society. Like, oh, your period's a little weird, try birth control pills. Oh, you've got, it's just all these different things that really we don't need it for, but it's just kind of the go-to that we've been told as people with uteruses. And
1000%.
Right. So being at this facility, I learned that when you are on birth control pills, hormonal birth control pills, your liver produces this thing called sex hormone binding globulin. And so it's basically, the way I think about this is like, imagine there's a bunch of puppies in a dog park. Like all those puppies are your estrogen, testosterone, like all your sex hormones that are going around, like making you feel interested in sex, helping you lubricate, helping your tissues be strong, and helping you orgasm when you are in a sexual situation. And when those puppies are able to run around and be free, they can do their job. But what sex hormone binding globulin does is it basically leashes those puppies. So they're still in your body, but they can't run around and do their job. And so being in this facility, I was like, oh man, I gotta get off birth control pills. I've been on this thing for 10 years. And in addition to that, most of my family has thyroid stuff. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism when I was like 17 or 18. So I was put on birth control pills and thyroid meds at the same exact time.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. And so when I got off of birth control pills, I talked to my doctors about it, and no one mentioned anything impacting my thyroid. What I learned a few months later is not only does the birth control pill increase your sex hormone binding globulin, it also increases the binding of your thyroid hormone. So I was taking way more thyroid hormone than I should have been without that binding happening.
Wow.
Yeah. So here I am. I've never really had anxiety. I've always been an extrovert. I've always been really energized by human interaction. Here I am having like pretty intense, violent panic attacks, even with vigorous exercise. I remember at the time I went for a bike ride and I was like, I feel like I'm going to cry. I feel really bad in my body. And my body just had a panic attack. And I now know when you are in a state of hyperthyroidism, so too much thyroid hormone in your body, your heart is very prone to heart palpitations. You have a lot of the symptoms of anxiety. Panic attacks are literally, it is hormonally driven. And, even though I went to the doctor and we found this thyroid imbalance, it took them over a year to get me back to the right numbers. And even then, I felt like I was completely white knuckling it through all my interactions, even my patient interactions, which I loved my job. And I was struggling to connect there because I felt so out of control of my body. I was struggling to connect to my partner in and out of the bedroom. And it was just this thing that completely took over my life. And, being in this biopsychosocial approach, I started going to therapy to kind of manage the symptoms as we were working on the medical aspect. And it's like, it was kind of helping, I would say like 20% improvement after a year.
Okay.
And the combination of changing my thyroid meds and therapy, right? So I got to this point with my endocrinologist and he's like, congratulations, your numbers are perfect. Like, you got this. We're good. And it was the biggest gut punch because I felt like I was so knowledgeable in the medical system. I was so knowledgeable in our human body, and I was doing, quote unquote, all the right things, right? I was addressing my mental and physical health, and still I felt like shit. Still, I felt so drained by interactions that used to energize me. Still, I felt a lot of difficulty being at home in my body, not feeling at odds with my body. And so I started searching and stumbled upon this women's health and functional nutrition coaching certification. And I'm sure all of you, who like this podcast love nutrition stuff. And I thought, okay, functional nutrition is going to heal me. And again, it took a little bit off. It was like, okay, changing my thyroid dose helped a little bit. Therapy helped a little bit. Functional nutrition helped a little bit, but I still was like, I'm not the person I was before. And I think the thing that really moved the needle for me was actually getting clear on the things outside of me, the systemic things that people who are socialized as female face on a daily basis, how we are socialized to interact with other humans, how we are socialized to hold space for other humans, to identify our needs and desires second to everyone else's, and sometimes not at all, right? We are really celebrated for taking care of others, celebrated for being empathetic and in touch with others, celebrated for being selfless, and celebrated for our achievements, right? In our hustle culture. And I think once I understood all of these things that were at play in the background, I felt like I had this missing piece that was like, okay, now the functional nutrition, the therapy, the coaching that I was doing just for my own, thoughts and emotions, the physical, the actual medical management of my hormonal imbalance, my hormone is,
You put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
It happens to the best of us.
It happens all the time. In fact, I think it should be another certified language, just speaking in the wrong emphasis.
I gotta keep y'all on your toes, right?
You're doing
really
a great job.
Gotta
You're
keep you
doing a great
interested.
job. I'm here for it.
But here's the thing is like, there's so many things that interplay with our physical, mental, emotional relationship health. And I feel like that cultural, societal piece was the last piece of the puzzle that I needed to just, wow, this is not a Rose issue. This is a systemic issue that people who are socialized as women face. And once I started talking about some of these things with my clients who I had been treating in this really incredible biopsychosocial approach, right? They were going to sex therapy. They were going to get their hormones managed. They were coming to me for physical therapy. But I found that when I started talking about these systemic issues with my clients, they felt more connected to their body. They felt better able to connect to their partner, and not just like, okay, I'm physically ready for sex. They were actually like, okay, I'm desiring sex. I'm interested in sex. I'm energized by sex. And it's not just this thing that I can do, right? It's this thing I want to do. I'm excited to do. And it feels like something that connects me further to my partner instead of this thing that's like, I guess I can do this, right? And so that's kind of my origin story and my what the fuck story all in one.
I like that. Can we keep going, Meg? Because I'm just
Yes.
like,
No,
the
absolutely.
questions are flowing. So we'll do ours at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for sharing that, because it was a wild ride. You took me on an emotional journey. And I need
too,
you to know
girl.
I bet. And I need
It
you
was
to
wild
know,
to live.
And I need you to know just how incredible everything you just said is. And before Kylie, you forget your questions, go forward.
No, I just wanted to. Okay, so I'm curious. What do these conversations sound like that you are having both with yourself and then with your clients? Because I think that, okay, your story here highlights so many specifics that so many people are going to relate to. For example, oh, my thyroid is messed up too, and they just put me on medication. I also have been on birth control for about, a decade or so. Oh, I'm not supposed to have those moments when I'm exercising? Wait, sex is something I'm supposed to want. What? So I need to know, because I'm sure everybody else is also thinking, what are the conversations? Like, what are you pointing out or identifying? Is there something that actually gets changed or some action that happens? Or is it more like the actual act of having the conversation and sort of putting it to rest or acknowledging it, maybe the opposite? Is that kind of what shifts things? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's a multi-step process, but I think first off, pelvic floor physical therapists have this phrase that we love to say, which is, it's common, but it's not normal, right? And we say this about a lot of pieces of, health that people with uteruses get, right? Like, leaking urine after you deliver your baby. It's common, but it's not normal, and we can make it better. You don't have to live with this, right? Like period pain of more than, 1 or 2 out of 10 every month. That's common, but not normal. And there's steps we can take to ameliorate that, right? Like, so I think that first off, just saying, hey, there's a lot of messages that we get as people who are socialized as female about what sex looks like, right? There's the messages of, okay, this is just your duty as a wife. This is just, women just don't like sex as much as men, right? In a very like heteronormative way to say it, but this is kind of the messages I got growing up.
Totally.
Sure.
Or there's kind of the other side of the equation where we're looking at TV media movies where they make out for 5 minutes, have missionary penetrative sex, and then everybody orgasms at the same time. And then there's the other side of the coin where you're like, okay, well,
False.
I'm not doing that. So is there something wrong with me? Like, why don't I like sex as much as everybody else? Like, what am I doing wrong? And so, it's common but not normal. Less than a third of people with vaginas can even reach orgasm through penetration alone. So yeah, it's common to not, and I wouldn't even say it's not normal. Like, it's common and normal to not be able to have an orgasm just through penetration alone, right? And it's just based on your anatomy, right? There's nothing you're doing wrong. So I think first off is just that education of, these are the things that we have been told we just have to live with, and we don't. So that's step one. Right.
Right. Okay. So recap, basically, there's nothing wrong with you. The messaging that you've received, either directly or indirectly, is responsible for the mental state you might be in right now.
Yep. Yep.
continue.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I do have one quick question because I to follow up with this, do you know what the percentage is? Isn't it something nuts like X% of women even have an orgasm during penetrative sex? Like I know you had mentioned it's not everyone who can, but isn't it a pretty wildly small percentage of women who can? And I not to cut you
Yeah.
off guard, but I was just curious if you knew.
No. Like without any type of clitoral stimulation, they found that less than 1/3 of people with vaginas can have an orgasm during just penetration alone. So it's, you know, like that's not that much. That's not that many, right? That's not the majority.
No.
That's not, you know, that's not the norm.
No, I just
Right?
wanted to put it into perspective for our listeners. When we say it's normal to not be able to reach these like fantasy things you see in the movies where like a man kisses your neck and all of a sudden you're like on the edge. You know what I mean? Like that is wildly expanded, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's just theatrical.
It's just not true.
Yeah.
Right. And we have to acknowledge that most of porn, TV, media is all through a male gaze, and it's really not centered on pleasure for people with vulvas. And you know, there are big disparities in how frequently people who identify as female have orgasms, either with a male partner or a female partner, right? So they see that couple like women who are people who have vaginas, who are sleeping with people who have vaginas, are having orgasms like 90+% of the time. Whereas, you know, people who are sleeping with cisgender men are more like 60% ish. And so it's like there is a big disparity. And that's not to say that, you know, there's not a problem with the way we socialize our men either, right? This is a societal problem. These are not individual issues. Like you didn't just walk out of the womb and say, well, you know, sex isn't for my pleasure, so I'm just kind of like gonna go along to get along, and you know, my partner needs this, I don't really need this, right? And these are all messages that our society has kind of programmed. And so the second step of this is really getting clear on, because we don't talk about sex, I think a lot of our beliefs about sex go kind of like sneaky, unsaid, unacknowledged, and they kind of just work in the background. Like if you've ever had this happen where there's like a bunch of apps open on your phone and you don't realize like why your phone is going so slow or your battery's running out so fast, and you open it up, you're like, there's 70 open apps right now. Like I opened my Venmo 2 weeks ago and it's still open. It's just been running in the background, right? So really what we're starting to do is like open and be like, oh, there's 70 open apps. Like, do I need all of these apps? Do I need all of these beliefs, right? Like, what do I believe about sex? Where did those beliefs come from? And can I start to question, do they align with how I consciously feel?
Wow. So I feel particularly called out because I have 7 years of apps going on in my head all the time. And I just think that's so relatable, and I love that you use that analogy. So basically you're saying we need to learn how to like close some of these apps.
That aren't serving us, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's so
good. So this is like, I mean, in some ways it's just so not surprising what you're saying. It's the specifics are the important and surprising part. But once again, we're in a position where it comes down to doing the inside work. This is an inside job of exploring, what the fuck have I been taught? What do I believe that I wasn't even actually taught, but just sort of absorbed?
Yes.
Right? Which is, in my opinion, that shit is the worst. Because you don't actually make a choice. There's no decision involved in all of that stuff. It just happens. And then all of a sudden, right, you've got both of you, to your point, you wake up 7 years later and you're like, what?
Yeah.
I've never even bothered to look at that or to question this particular thing because it just has been a part of me for so long. It's like, oh, I have hair? I didn't realize that. I've always had hair. It's like a very similar kind of feeling. And when you add to the mix that the topic happens to be also something that is super off limits and taboo and like, well, now we've just got a recipe for disaster, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's so I guess the message I want to say here is that it sounds like simply having the conversations, or even if you just do them with yourself, right? Looking at what can I let go of might bring you tremendous relief. Do you see that with people?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that
Yeah.
there's so much shame and criticism that comes up for us that we just don't even really realize where that comes from. And like a great example of this is, I don't know if you've ever had a day where you like got so much done on your to-do list, but then you feel all this like, oh my God, I didn't get anything done. What a wasted day. And you're just like down on yourself. And like, it's so powerful to just have that shift, even if you're not like changing 100% the behavior, but noticing and saying, okay, I'm totally noticing that this is my hustle culture coming back in. I'm totally noticing that my brain is wanting to really like hit that belief that in order to be worthy, I have to be productive. It's really trying to hit that belief hard. And, once I acknowledge that and where that came from, I can just have compassion with myself and I can just say, like, gosh, brain, like I totally understand why you feel that way after all this time, all these messages, but it's okay. We did enough and you don't have to do anything else to prove it. Right. And then you can start having these compassionate conversations with yourself to really work on changing the narrative. And that's a lot of my work has transformed. Obviously, I'm no longer in the clinic physically working hands-on with people. I am much more working on how are we using visualization? How are we using different strategies to start to shift these beliefs in a way that I've found to be really effective.
I think that you bring up such a good point too, because what this reminds me of is so a good friend of mine and I have sort of been on a journey that's related to this together. We've just been realizing more things about this exact thing. And it like blew her mind when in one of our conversations that we were talking about, because she always used to really like beat herself up when like she would just go through phases where her energy just wasn't there. And then
Mm-hmm.
when we started kind of trying to plan our lives more based off of our cycles,
Yes.
it was like the realization kicks in. It's like the hustle culture is a very masculine
Mm-hmm.
sort of energy, and
Yes.
men tend to run on 24-hour cycles. Is that
Yep.
right? And then
Yep.
women obviously have a 28-day or 32-day, whatever it is,
Yeah.
cycle. So a lot of women, I have found, at least in my personal experience, tend to beat themselves up when they're not having
Mm-hmm.
this consistent energy every day. So it's just a little different, but it reminded me what you were saying about, and I just had this conversation with my sister this morning too, about how it's a different cycle. And so
Yes.
our cycles just don't match with like the societal expectation of like that
100%.
consistent energy every day. Fascinating.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. It's something that I talk about with my clients all the time. And I do think, what we've learned is successful is really this like, okay, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to have this like morning routine that's the same every day. And I'm disciplined and I'm consistent. And that's how I know I'm doing a good job. And I do believe in seasons, right? And in all
Mm-hmm.
parts of our life. And so glad you brought up our cycles because we have different hormones on board at different points in our cycle. And so if we can understand, hey, maybe during ovulation, I am going to have more sex drive. And hey, if I do want to be more active during other phases in my cycle, that's okay. I have other tools to kind of build upon, but I'm not going to shame myself if I'm starting from maybe like ground one instead of if I'm ovulating, I'm already like on step 15. I only need to go 2 more steps to get turned on, right? So just knowing that there's different places we're starting from, and that's okay.
Let's dive into that actually. Can we take a quick side trip? I would love to have somebody explain these are the parts of the cycle. This is what they're called. These are the hormones that are happening during that cycle. And this is how you might expect to feel. And so, ... Is that too much? I just think like it's the health class that we don't get. Like
Seriously.
there are so many. I was just talking about this to somebody as well. There's so much about the human body that I don't know. I feel like there's a lot about my body that I don't know. All I know is that I cyclically feel like a crazy person, and then cyclically feel like I could do anything in the whole entire fucking world. Watch me. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's miserable.
I can tell you during when I'm ovulating, I feel like I have had the craziest dose of uppers in the whole world. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it is insanity. My husband is like, what has gotten into you? And sometimes now I know. I'm just like, well, I'm probably ovulating.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It
Anyway,
like becomes the new astrology, right? We're like, well, Mercury's in retrograde. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. No, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. 1,000%.
You're like always on day 28, but then you're like, oh, I guess I'm on day 7. So
Yes, but
Oh my
please
God.
take us on this journey. Can you just give us like an overview of the
Day
cycle?
one.
Yeah.
okay, there's way too much to get into for like
Okay.
this.
Totally.
What I
Way
will
too
say,
much.
Yeah.
okay, here's a book that's a great resource for this. It's called In the Flow, Elisa Vitti. And
yeah.
so she will go, it literally goes through day 1. Here's what you eat. Here's your exercise. Here's how you'll feel for the typical person. I'll tell you, I break down, I'm all about like, how can we make the biggest bang for the most baby steps? And so when I talk to my clients about their cycles, I'm not going in day 1, here's what your hormones look like. Day 2, here's what your hormones look like, because I think that it can be overwhelming. But what I want you to know is right before you bleed, your hormones are lowest. So the way that I think about this is usually our hormones give us energy, give us like emotional resilience, give us like interest, passion, capacity. So just think about, if you think about a bucket that's full of water, right? The more hormones that are on board, oftentimes we have more energy to do things. And so this is why if we're low in that bucket of water right before our bleed, you might find yourself craving extra, nourishment, extra food. You're craving like salty or sweet because you're really like depleted. You're tired. And so you're looking for energy there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
That's
might
where
also
those-
notice, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. That's where those like chocolate cravings come from too. And there's also like some talk about, magnesium and how chocolate can kind of give you some of that magnesium. So there's a lot we can get into with the nutrients, but just know our stores are low before our bleed. So we're going to have less emotional resilience a lot of the time, and we're going to need more nourishment, nutrition. So the way that I think about it is, yeah, maybe I had capacity to hang out with 2 friends back to back on day 14, but if I'm right before my bleed, that might feel overwhelming to me. I might not have the emotional capacity for that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But if I'm feeling fatigued, I have a reason for it. I have an understanding of it. And so I'm not saying, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you able to hang out with multiple people back to back to back? Right. So it's just informing that compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
and
gosh. I love that. And I also thank you so much for that book recommendation, because I'm definitely going to read it. I've heard of it. I just haven't actually read it, but I think you're right in that it's probably so complicated. So we'll have another episode on that. Maybe that's what we'll do when we bring you back for part 2.
yeah, that's a whole episode.
Whole other topic. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So let's I've been dying to ask you, what are your tips and recommendations for women who find maybe they have a hard time like getting out of their head during sex? We had kind of alluded to that earlier in our conversation about how there's a lot of societal conditioning and a lot of the shoulds, and I'm sure that contributes a lot to like anxieties even during trying to be intimate with a partner. And so
Yeah.
I'm all ears. I'm very excited to hear what you might suggest.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing to talk about. One of my favorites, but I it comes down to two main things for me. So one is self-focus versus other focus. I think people who are socialized as female are oftentimes taught to focus on other people's experience of the moment that they are in, meaning like, does this feel good to you? Are you enjoying this? Is this taking too long? Are you getting bored? Instead of turning the spotlight in and saying, does this feel good to me? Am I enjoying this? What would feel better to me? What would feel good? Right. And so that self focus versus other focus, when we're in self focus, we're focused on our body. When we are in other focus, we're in our heads trying to read the mind of whoever's around us. It's exhausting and also impossible, right? Like it's impossible to read someone's mind.
Yeah.
So I think that's key, right? Noticing, is this a thought about my experience of this moment, or is this a thought where I'm trying to read someone else's mind and read someone else's experience? So thing one.
Oh, and it's a biggie. It's a biggie. That's a big thing.
It's a
Can I
big
ask a
thing.
follow-up? I want to
Yeah.
ask a follow-up about that because I imagine that many people would hear you say that and logically understand, of course, that's what I do. But if I ask the flip of those, I'm selfish.
Yes.
Do you get people who say this or
All
challenge
the time.
that? What do we say to this?
All the time. So I think it's a really common narrative that unless we are thinking about other people first, we are selfish.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I see in my work is the most selfish people oftentimes are unintentionally selfish, and it's when you are at your least resourced, like your most limited capacity. Have you ever had a situation where you know, you let little things go, let little things go, let little things go, let little things go, and then have a blow up with a
Oh, yeah.
partner or with a friend, and then the partner's like, what are you talking about? I had no idea any of this was going on. And for everybody's definition of selfishness is different. But for me, I really truly have come to a place where I believe it is selfish to keep your truth to yourself and expect someone else to read your mind.
Oh, can you say that again? Like one more time for the people in the back? Because I am.
Yeah.
Stop me in my tracks.
Yeah. I think that when we are so focused on reading someone else's mind and meeting their needs, we're not meeting our own. And we're not indicating to the other people how to meet ours, what we actually need. We're not being honest with ourselves and them. And I think that's the most selfish thing that you can possibly do, is holding your truth back and not allowing. It's a breakdown in intimacy.
Oh,
And
Truly.
that's all we've got, folks. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. If we get nothing else, there you have it. If you are not communicating, you're actually being selfish. I mean, man, not to sound like overly blasé about it, but it really, you know what it does is it shifts the power back into that person. It
Yes.
then allows you to do something about it, which is, by the way, the entire purpose of us bringing these conversations out to people, to highlight the things that you can put your phone away and go home and actually do. And guess what? This one costs nothing. No time, no money, nothing. You can simply decide to get in touch with. Tell me if you've had this issue too, Rose. People not knowing what it is they want and need to be able to communicate it, because so many of us, and I don't even think that this is a man-woman thing, so many of people
Yeah.
are not offered the opportunity or the encouragement to say, what do you want?
Yeah.
Dream. What do you want? What would
Yeah.
feel amazing emotionally or physically, whatever it might. I mean, we could take this outside of sex even.
Of course.
I can only imagine, I'm thinking of so many different scenarios in which that is the barrier.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
even being able to ID to yourself what you want or need, let alone take the next step in communicating it to somebody.
Yep.
And I mean, that's not an overnight thing.
No, and it's a big part of my work is learning to identify what our body is trying to tell us, right? Reestablishing that self-intimacy and saying, when I feel this, I need that. And the question that I start to shift is, I think so often our analytical human brain wants to know why. Like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? And I think a better question to ask is, what do I need?
Oh,
Because I think
always.
why do I feel this way is a judgmental question to ask yourself. Like, what's wrong with you that you're feeling like this? Asking, what do I need, already says, of course you feel like this. It makes perfect sense. What do you need? What would be helpful?
Yeah. So
This is just, it's funny that you say that. I've been I've been trying to make a practice of doing this, like, what do I need? What do I need? What do I need? The answer rarely comes, but it's at least like putting it out there, right? And sometimes, you guys, sometimes it's just simple, and it can be as basic and almost silly as, like, what do I want to eat? I know what I, quote, should have. What would make me feel amazing right now?
Yep.
And maybe it's like, I need a lot of energy, or maybe it would feel amazing to eat some, like, perfectly ideal meal, as if that exists. Or maybe it's like, I want this cupcake even though it's 8 a.m. and that is going to make me feel amazing. And but stuff like that, if you can't even identify what you want to drink,
Yes.
how are you going to tell somebody else what you need? I think it's just so,
yeah. That
maybe
also
that's a practice for people. What do you need? Just ask. If nothing comes, okay, but the practice of doing it, right?
Yeah, Meg, were you going to say something?
I was actually gonna just clarify, just in case, because I think you kind of answered this question, and that's what we're talking about is like, how can people learn to figure out what they want and communicate that? And so one of the major takeaways that I've gotten so far is just to ask yourself what you need, get in the habit of asking yourself. But even that, I can see how that could feel like a bit of an undertaking for someone who this is all very new to. So I'm just curious as to what some common things that you might recommend to start for those listening who are interested in this kind of work, just maybe exploring on their own and things like that. Do you have any just fun things that you like to recommend?
Yeah, I say start with awareness. And I think that a visualization that really helps me is when I am in a situation, just noticing, like, am I shining my spotlight out? Am I wondering what people are thinking, feeling, wanting? Okay, if I notice myself there, which I oftentimes, that's my go-to, that's how I've been socialized. Even after years of doing this work, I still go there first. Can I pause and turn the spotlight in for me and just say, even if I don't know what I want or what I need or anything, what is alive for me right now? What can I identify? What thoughts are here? What physical sensations? Can I identify emotions? Right. For a long time in my work, my only emotion I could identify was not enough-ness, which I think is a huge one.
Ooh, yeah.
And it didn't become apparent, that there was just a lot going into that. But I think just noticing, like, I don't really know what this not enoughness needs, but I'm identifying it. I'm identifying it. And I'm identifying it's happening at the end of the day. And I'm identifying it's happening when I'm really overgiving my energy. Wow, okay. I feel really depleted. I feel exhausted. Wow, maybe I'm giving too much, right? And so having these little insights can help you kind of just get to know yourself better. And this isn't a process that happens overnight, but it comes with just the intentionality of, yeah, I'm great at empathizing, great at identifying what people need. And it might be as simple as you're meeting a friend for lunch and they ask you what you want to eat and you're like, I don't know, let me think about it for a minute, right? Create
Yeah.
space.
Mhm.
Create
Something
space instead
small.
of whatever you want is fine, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I could also totally see this exercise as like shifting I'm sure there are a lot of people in general, maybe not just people who have uteruses, but like people in general who might see sex as an act that's exhausting, or like
Yes.
sexual things as an act that's exhausting just to please someone else.
Yep.
But I could also see taking the tips that you've given us so far and actually shifting it to use sex as a way to fill your cup, almost like
Exactly.
as an act of nourishment. And I love that idea. I love that for everybody.
Yeah. And that's
Oh man.
really my mission. Like I think life is too short for sex that feels draining or stressful or anything less than connected and filling your cup and energizing you and exciting you and feeling just nourishing mind, body, and soul. And I think that sex has become this thing that can be so like charged and draining and transactional. And I think a
Mm.
lot of the time it's unintentional that we've gotten here. We're just kind of playing out a lot of these roles that we've been given. But there can be a lot of damage done if we don't disrupt that cycle.
Oh my gosh. And this I don't know what the actual statistic is, but isn't there a statistic that's something like people who orgasm like I don't know, something like 2 or 3 times a day or something, like they live so and such times longer or something like that. Is I don't know, maybe I saw
Yeah,
it on TikTok. I'm sure
I don't have
it's
it off
not
the top of
research.
my head, but I don't, I believe it because here's the thing, like so much of our day we're spent in that kind of fight and flight, get shit done mode. And I think that that is really adaptive at times. We need to get shit done. We need to take action.
Mm-hmm.
However, living in it our entire day when we're driving, when we're texting, when we're, going back and forth between screens, our body isn't built to sustain that. It's built to step into it and then come back down into rest. And so when that's kind of the second thing that takes us out of our bodies and into our head during sex is we're not able to shift out of that nervous system activation where we're in that get shit done fight and flight mode. And so I think that it makes perfect sense for me when you say, I've seen many, many statistics about how more orgasms help you live longer. And,
I'm sure.
it's great for your cardiovascular system. And it's great for your, hormones. And it's great
It's
for
great
your,
for your skin.
it's great for your skin. It's great for your, mental and emotional health. Right.
Yeah.
And of course it is. But it's also a time where we are shifting out of that get shit done and we're shifting into that resting nervous system. And that in and of itself is so powerful and healing and important.
Yeah.
And not supported.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think this entire episode is my health what the fuck moment. I don't need
It
to share.
is.
It's totally. I personally I pride myself in being somebody. It's like I just happen to be a very highly and openly sexual person. I make sex jokes all the time. I talk about it all the time. I chase my husband around the apartment all the time. Like it's my love language is physical touch. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just how I am. But even still, like there's so many good things that you've shared with us today, and
Mm.
I am just blown away. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the oh gosh, it almost sounds too cliche, but the permission that has been offered, the permission that has been illustrated exists as an invitation to like take.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to say like, oh, maybe I do identify with a little piece of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that's how it starts for a lot of people with anything. You might hear something and that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. Maybe that's a little bit. Yeah, maybe I'll explore that thing. And then you explore that thing and you're like, oh wait, that is me. And that's been the problem all along.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you get that little crack that will shine just enough insight in to allow you to start to align things, put things in place. That, when you say shifts the needle, it doesn't have to be this like life-changing thing. It's this tiny little invitation to do one thing. I don't know what I want to eat. Let me ask myself. Like, it's simply getting in the habit of doing that with anything, right? Maybe you don't start with sex, I think is what you're saying. Maybe you start with something that feels more manageable or approachable, and then allow it to kind of shift into other things, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, the majority of the time we're actually not going to be talking about sex. Like, your sex life is going to get way better. You're going to feel way more excited about sex. You're going to feel more connected to your sex life, your sexuality, your sensuality. However, a lot of what we are doing is uncovering and just shining a light on things that show up in every area of your life. And I do have a lot of clients who tell me, like, gosh, I had no idea that not only would I feel differently about sex, but I have a client I was just talking to. She's a trauma therapist. She works as a trauma therapist, and she was sharing she's a better trauma therapist after doing this work because she's more connected to her body and her body's experience during sessions, and she's better able to hold herself and her nervous system in the sessions, and that makes her better able to hold space for her clients.
Wow.
Fast. That is fast. So
That
I
trickle
have
effect.
right? So that makes me think of something. I have just a quick little follow-up question. What are your thoughts on, like, because listening to what you're saying, it almost sounds like embodiment practices, maybe even like before, maybe not just, it doesn't have to just be sex like we were saying, but like, first of all, the importance of embodiment practices, I think, can speak for itself in this episode, like just in general, making sure that's bringing the awareness back to your body. But if we were to talk about sex specifically, do you find it beneficial, or do your clients find it beneficial to do like a meditation, or maybe that's the power of massage, like before, like to kind of get in the mood or whatever? Like, I almost wonder, do you use those tools a lot in your practice with clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that there's three main ingredients that usually help people kind of shift into a sexy headspace and get in the mood.
Oh,
And
yes, tell us.
so and is literally just decreasing stress, right? And so what you shared, meditation, like that can be a way to do that. There's lots of different ways to decrease stress. I have some clients who will take a shower, and just kind of like just wash the day away. I have some clients who will dance. I have some clients who will take a walk, right? Whatever helps you decrease stress. There's also decreasing pressure. This is where a lot of some of that rewriting the narratives of society that make us feel pressure unnecessarily comes in. And then the third piece of this is, have you ever been to someone's house and you're not hungry, but they're baking cookies and you're like, okay, I smelled that cookie. I really want a cookie now.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah, right? Like, so sometimes we have to expose ourselves to something a little bit sexy to actually get in the mood. And it can feel like bass backwards a little bit sometimes for people, because they're like, well, I don't want to expose myself to something sexy unless I'm in the mood. But what I need you to know is the majority of people need to smell that cookie, right? Our sex drive is not like hunger. We don't just have it every single day, no matter what, no matter how much we want food, we get hungry, right? It is kind of like our dessert stomach. And
that's such a great point.
yeah. So I think that massage and embodiment techniques can help with that, decreasing stress component. But especially if they're a little bit sexy, they can help kind of rev up that desire. So it's just something to know that sometimes your body has to go first and your brain will follow. We think that we have to fix our brain first. And I think that sometimes we just have to put our body in the situation and let our brain follow. And that's not to say, like, I'm not recommending that you have non-consensual sex. I think this is really important to say. This has to be like, I know I'll enjoy it. I know I'll feel more connected. I'm open. I'm like interested enough to be game. And then if I try it and I'm like, nah, I'm not really getting into this, I know I can change my mind or say no at any point. It's kind of like when you don't really feel like going to the gym, but you know you'll be really happy you went. And so you put your gym shoes on and you get there. And sometimes you're like, I'm so glad I went. I'm loving this gym trip. And sometimes you're like, fuck this. I'm exhausted. I'm going home. Right.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean like, you know, militant, put your shoes on every day at 4 p.m. and go to the gym for 5 hours, you know, like we're not
That is a
forcing
great
anyone to do
analogy.
anything, but just knowing
That's a
this is
great
how
analogy.
desire works is helpful to know.
Yes. I think that's so helpful.
Again, yes,
Ah.
it's like, that's okay. This whole episode is filled with permission. That's how it
Yeah.
feels to me. It's like these things are okay, not okay, normal, but not okay.
Common but not normal.
Common but not normal. That's what it is. I
Yeah.
think that you know, those little nuances really matter, and they matter for people who are in the thick of something like this, when they're trying, and I would even argue willing to try to see their way out of it. You know, they're fighting to feel, I'm going to say, quote, normal or okay or desirable or sexy, whatever it may be. And I just feel like we went through so many things that tells you, like, you feel that way because of generations of bullshit that you weren't even directly told to think but took on. Like, you can change that pretty quickly if you decide to.
Right.
It's shocking how powerfully simple some of these shifts really can look.
Yeah.
It's encouraging and it's empowering.
Yeah.
To people, human beings, right? Like, this is not even like this is not specific to, I think this is a universal human thing that people can benefit from. I think it's great.
Yeah. And I hear from clients all the time. The first time I heard it, it kind of shocked me, but I hear all the time, like, it's easier to do this work than to not do it. And it was
Ooh.
amazing because I think that the heaviness that we walk around with that we don't even realize is slowing us down is so profound. And once we start clearing that away, we're like, wow, I feel so much more light, ease, excitement, happiness. I'm way more connected to myself. I'm not having those situations where I push my boundaries so far that I'm totally depleted or having a blow up, right? And my life just gets simpler, easier, like more pleasurable. And I think that is important to note that, yes, this is like big work, but it's a lot of the time easier than not doing the work. So
Wow.
That's some
Wow.
perspective for you guys right there. It's
Yeah.
hard work that's actually easier than not doing it.
On that note, you have a free guide that can maybe help people start doing this work, like to help them see if anyone is curious about how to start doing this work, because as you've mentioned, it's easier to do it than not do it. So if
yes.
they need a guide, you have a free one that they can download, right?
I do. So I hear all the time, like, gosh, I just don't really know how to identify what I like in bed and how to ask for it. And I created this guide. It's very simple, easy, kind of Mad Lib style. And
Oh, so fun. I
yeah,
love Mad Lib.
it's literally fill in the blank. And you can do it by yourself or you can do it with your partner. But really, it just gets you clear on, hey, I feel really good when we do this. Something that I would love more of is this. Something that I would be fine with less of is this. I also feel really good when we do this. And so it just gets you thinking. It's a low pressure environment like this, because I think a lot of the time people feel, okay, if we talk about what's going well or not so well in our sex life, it's gonna feel really critical or really, and you can just kind of laugh at the guide together and be like, oh, like, this is so silly, like, let's do it, you know? So that is absolutely available. And I sent you the link, rose.com/talk. I believe.
Yes,
But
and that'll
I think you have it.
that'll yeah, we have it, and that'll we're gonna put it in the show notes as well. And that's
Yeah.
your, just to be clear, so that when listeners go to your website, it's the Let's Talk About Sex guide. That's what it's called.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then I think you're a wealth of information, and I would love our listeners to just everybody go follow her, and your Instagram handle is Be Well with Rose, right?
Yep. Yep. I
It's
post a lot
also
of.
so beautiful. It's so satisfying to look at. It really is. I mean, that has nothing to do with anything important other than it's pleasing. It's so satisfying.
No, let's see here. It is. Look at all these. Oh, I get
Look
it.
at look at the one where she's
Yeah.
boiling glitter. How good.
Oh, and there's streamers in here. I love me some good glitz, and this is very glitzy and very pretty. I love this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
I found the glitter one.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I do it
It
all
is
myself, and
What?
you know,
Oh,
it took a lot of trial and error.
do you moonlight as a
I
content
was just
creator?
going to say, you've got a lot of business on your hands, my friend.
Oh man. Well, I am blown away. Kylie, do you have anything else that you were thinking about that you just want to ask Dr. Rose while we have her on?
Yes, I've got like a million things.
I
We
mean,
just don't have enough time
okay,
for it.
right.
So, yes,
Okay.
I think today I think that we ventured out far enough, because any much further we're going to be here way too long.
We'll
So
be here
maybe
yeah.
we will work on, Rose, another time that we could bring you back in and chat. But I mean, I think that this has been I think this has the potential to be really life-changing for people.
Agreed.
I really do. And I want to thank you so much, obviously, for your time, but also for the good that you're doing. I mean, the service that you offer people is nothing short. I mean, to your point, it's not about sex at all. That's where the issue is manifesting for people, but it's not about that. And what you're helping people access, that deeper work, there's nothing like it. And I'm grateful that you're doing it here this time around. Thank you so much.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I do feel like it's life-changing. I do feel like we need to talk about it more. So thank you so much for creating a space for open conversation about this, right? And who knows who's going to listen to this. And if anyone is listening to this episode and felt like, wow, yeah, I do feel disconnected to my body, or it is hard to get out of my head during sex, or I do feel drained during sex, or disconnected from that part of me, I want you to know you're not the only one. And I want you to know that there are such simple, easy tricks that we can use to connect you to your body, to work with your body, to basically address not just the physical aspect of being ready for sex, but also your thoughts, your emotions, the cultural things that come in and act like sneaky. And I have seen that it's possible to get goosebumps again during sex, to, you know, feel like you're first dating again. And anyone who's watching this and or listening and feeling really called to send me an Instagram message. That's how Kylie first connected to me. She just sent me a message, and I think that we do need. Send me a message. Let me know what you took away from this episode. I'd love to hear. And I just think that we need to be talking about this openly. And I just feel blessed to be doing this work, this coaching work that I do.
Yeah,
I feel blessed that you're doing this coaching work.
I do too. I do too. Honestly, it's so wonderful, and it means the world to Meg and I that you decided to come on and have the conversation with us. So thank you. Thank you very, very much. We will be speaking again very soon.
Oh yeah. Yep. We can't stop here. It's going to be a part 2 on the horizon.
We'll talk to you guys soon, okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Rose, don't hang up yet. Hold on. Just give us a second. We have to wait for it to done up.
We do this like fake it out thing every single time. It's really weird.
Sometimes.
Thanks so much. See you later.
I know. Well, if I remember in the beginning to let everybody know, do not hang up yet. Then wait.